And that was possibly the most genuine jump scare I've had in years. This is Routine, a sci-fi horror from a small British studio by the name of Lunar Software. Come on England, oi oi oi. Now I've had my beady little eyes on Routine for a while now, having seen the 2022 Summer Games Fest announcement and the Gamescom trailer earlier this year, both of which showed this. And they had me at Hello, but little did I know, Hello has been a decade in the making, being originally revealed back in 2012, before suffering quite the series of setbacks that led it to only be releasing now, turning its relationship with Alien Isolation into some weird Ouroboros type situation. But it's here now, and from what I can tell, it has leveraged that extra time in the oven to create a game that is quite singular. You play as an unnamed engineer who has just been sent to a lunar colony of the retrofuturism variety that has just gone completely silent. What starts off as looking into a faulty AI spirals into something much more existential as you make your progress through the colony. From arrivals to the tram station and the mall and the labs, immersion is the name of the game here in Routine, joining more recent titles like Hell is Us in attempting to claw back the player's attention span. I'm really quite fascinated by games like these. They could quite easily be swept aside or labelled niche or experimental, but I find what they do to be quite fundamental, and a great lesson in the intentionality of game design. Because if you can't rely on the yellow paint to explain to the player what to do and where to go, how else do you do it? The answer is, of course, the video game they're playing, dummy, and Routine is a sparkling example of that. It has a small tutorial room that delivers just enough to set you on your way and get you adapting your thinking to what Routine expects of you that a AAA might not. Like figuring out where to go, for instance, which for someone like myself who is geographically challenged is a whole battle in and of itself. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I like this game already. Past that room, all agency is on you. You are free to go this way and that as you attempt to find your objective, drinking in what I think has to be one of the most gorgeous looking games in recent memory. I'm quite bewildered as to how they got Routine looking quite this good, but it helps that there's not a lot to make you question it. Each environment is rendered in sharp clarity with no performance issues pretty much at all, despite, I'm sure, Unreal Engine 5's best efforts. And all emphasis is placed on variety of design, which makes even the most basic of areas stand out. And then you get to the ones they put all the bucks behind, and the view really does become worth it. Wow, we can't stand here for too long. There is one thing of human proportions later on into the game that will remind you that you are playing a video game up close, but aside from that, everything has my seal of approval. This is all helped by a light layer of visual noise, something the youngins will consider a sign of something old, and most games would rather die than figure out how to utilize, which adds a nice bit of texture to these classically 80s sci-fi environments, making them more believable and immersive. Now, I know immersion is a bit of a trigger word these days, it's a bit too easy and broad, and the internet used it like goddamn Mortifier when they were figuring out how to talk about art critically, but it really does feel like a bit of a mission statement for Routine. Not only does it not have a glowing triangle showing you where to go for the entire game, but as you may have noticed by now, it has no HUD at all. Navigation, story, and puzzle solving are all done with a careful examination of your surroundings. Solutions are always something you can do practically, like touching a button or turning something on and off, or doing diagnostics on a terminal because you're an engineer, dummy. I actually really enjoyed the act of linking up the error codes to the particular solution for that terminal, but I might just be a massive nerd, so. Even screens. The center of your view will become a mouse when you get close enough, so you actually are navigating the machines. One particular puzzle is even solved by the most complex solution I think I've ever seen in a video game. Oh, no shot. Yeah, okay. I just got outsmarted by the game. Okay. 3879. The one solitary video game ass menu that's in this video game, even that one, the one that tracks your missions, your stats, your information, the save screen, even that one is projected onto surfaces. And I wish I was kidding, when I tell you how excited I got when when you can see the blemishes when it's projected onto uneven surfaces. I need help. This immersion-first approach also stretches to audio design, with most sounds coming from very easily tracked pieces of the environment and some very strong directionality. At one point you have to take an audio test, and very suddenly a rather unpleasant sound was isolated to specifically my left ear, and boy was that not pleasant, but I had to respect them for it. Oh, and before I forget, music is used quite sparingly, but when it does get used, it does tend to bang. It was partially designed before scheduling conflicts occurred, I believe, by Mick Gordon, who has done a fair few soundtracks in his life. Yeah, so yeah, it's good. That aforementioned directionality also comes in quite strongly with the game's enemies, who functionally are quite similar to Resident Evil stalkers in the way that you can't really get rid of them and they will haunt your every step. But we can't properly talk about them without first talking about my new best friend, my cat. Cosmonaut Assistance Tool, aka the clicky thing that made me play the game in the first place. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love sci-fi horror, but look at it go clickety-clackety and tell me that isn't cool. The cat has the solution to pretty much everything hidden within its various buttons and modes, which can be all accessed by inspecting it with the R key. We have a power button and the indicator for how much battery life you have, a degausser to clear the screen from electromagnetic interference, the wireless key which allows you to interact with terminals and connect to the save screen, and the various modules, 3 of them to be exact. It comes pre-installed with the maintenance module, which is used for shorting and overloading machinery. Basically, it's a long-range door handle. Then you have the UltraView mod, which is namely for cheating terminal codes and hunting for clues. And last but not least is the interface module, which is basically a really fancy security measure. One of the biggest arcs you'll go through as the player in routine is going from being clumsy and unfamiliar in your use of the cat to feeling like it's a very natural extension of yourself. A great word to describe the sensation of using the cat and the general playing of routine is tactile. It's very convincing in making you feel like you actually are committing these actions and delivering this whole engineer fantasy, especially as toward the end of the game, you start really utilizing the various functions and modes of the cat. When you couple that with all the other decisions that routine has made to really drag the player in, and you almost had me thinking I could fix a lunar base. Earlier on I made the comparison to Hell Is Us, but that is still an RPG with a lot of menus. They pulled back on specifically information and navigational tools to really reinvigorate the idea of player-led exploration. But thanks to the work put in by Lunar Software and the very satisfying design of the cat, these principles can be applied to the entire experience. There are so few in-game tools that I think have been so satisfyingly integrated with the player character, certainly not ones that by the end of the game I wish I had more reason to play around with. Please, Lunar Software, I am begging you, give me a reason to press the power button. Let me take away my own power in this situation. Give me a reason to press it. I dare you. It's quite fortunate that the game helps you become so intimate with the cat because it is also your last line of defense. When you first collect your ragamuffin, there are several notes telling you not to point it at the Type 5s. So naturally, the very first thing I did was point it at a Type 5. The instigating point of routine is that the AI is going a bit loopy, so naturally, what is a good rogue AI without taking over the robotic help? 3 shots and they will be disabled, for like 30 seconds, which I found out when I stood around a little too long.
Please tell me that doesn't come back on. Oh shit, no it does.
This capacity for resurrection is not the only reason I brought up their stalker-like behavior though. As you see, you could say they also routinely patrol the area. Oh, but it's not just their persistence or their habit of scanning doorways I'm standing in that makes them so terrifying. You'll typically find several Type 5s in an area, but due to the malfunction that you were sent up to fix, only one of them can be operational at a time. Now, this leads to some really quite tense moments when you are looking at one that is dormant, and you know it is dormant, but however, you know in your heart of hearts that the second you try to walk past it, it will wake up. The Type 5s have a fantastic design for a horror enemy, especially in a game with such a strong atmosphere, and as you can't turn them off or fully shake them, it pushes you into a level of permanently anxious stealth that I have not had to resort to in what feels like a really long time. It's quite similar with the game's other enemy, Entity A, a giant, lightning-quick hunk of flesh who may or may not be invisible, and that you can only see with the interface module. Fortunately, it's not a fan of flash photography, which gives you enough time to go and find a hiding spot. Forget what I said about permanent anxiety, I was brooking it throughout this entire section. This little nerd is also rather rudely used in a scavenger hunt situation. Fortunately for me, my only saving grace was that he got sulky halfway through and decided to stick his head in the wall and stand there for like half of it. Believe me, I wasn't complaining. Personally, I think Routine has some of the most earned horror I felt in a game like this for a while. It feels very similar to a survival horror in terms of its pacing and its structure, just with less focus on the survival elements outside of the living part. One of the things about those games is that they can be a bit campy and or have a bit of a ramping power fantasy, so that by the end of the game you don't have all that much reason to be scared. They're more on the fun side of the horror spectrum. So while Routine might have a slight issue with overabundance of batteries for your British short hair, the game is designed so tightly and so well crafted that the horror doesn't feel cheapened and manages to actually stay quite strong throughout. It's not a perfect experience, of course. The story, for example, is a bit unwieldy in its execution and frankly just left me confused and not in the fun way. I do wonder how much of it is due to the rather extended development time, but I don't know. It's just unfortunate that something so key can drag down the experience a little bit. It's also a very easy game to get tripped up on. One of the things with stripping back all those hand-holding measures is that people that are used to them might not have the best time getting along with this game. But you've got the flip side where some people are complaining about the length. It's only about 7 hours on average, which, is rather on the short side. Some people have completed it in 4 hours, but I'm pretty sure they have to have been literally sprinting it the entire way. Some may take issue with the fact that the enemies could be considered easy. There may be a point to that, I wouldn't really know. I didn't really try and fight anything outside of that first Type 5 because I realized stealth was just the better way. But so there might be a point there. But I'd argue you're not supposed to be glocking everything from here to the moon, so to each their own, I suppose. Routine is a game that is very focused on its atmosphere and on engaging the player. It's a real vibes game, and if you're not willing to sit with it and go at its pace, then you probably are going to feel cheated. But if you slow down and enjoy the gorgeous scenery and the well-wound tension, then I think the bar of quality is more than high enough to justify the 20 Great British Pounds price point, even with a slightly lackluster narrative. My biggest takeaway is that I'm hoping this studio can continue this streak of innovation into their next title and that hopefully we don't have to wait 12 years for this one. So who's Routine for? Well, if you're a big fan of that Ridley Scott alien-style retrofuturism and those kind of aesthetics, then I think you'll go pretty far with this game. Routine is very focused on that and gets a lot of mileage out of it. Also, if you're patiently waiting for the Alien Isolation sequel, then I think Routine could be a good stopgap for you, maybe satiate your hunger for at least a little bit. They're very similar games in terms of their atmosphere and even their enemy design, so I think there's a lot here to dig your teeth into. Also, if you've been on the look for games that are a bit less handholdy but still of the more, premium visual experiences, then something like this, something like Hell Is Us, I think they're really good to check out in terms of where some design trends are going. Routine's tactile design is also a really big selling point for me specifically, so if you're interested in the way they design like stuff like the cat, stuff like the puzzle solutions, the fact that nothing is done through menus, I would check it out. It's also a really beautiful space game, and while there's not much time on the moon specifically, the bit on the moon is absolutely breathtaking, and that is definitely, there's a market there. There's a market there. Let's leave off with some cautionary notes. Like I said earlier, it is very short. 7 hours is about the most you're going to get out of it, unless you're really taking your time. I did see someone on the review page saying they took like 11 and a half, and I am very curious how much time they spent just walking around enjoying the environment. Absolutely based, by the way. That's not a dig. I just wonder how much time you actually spent just looking around stuff. But yes, with the length and the fact that it is £20 currently at launch, whether that's worth it or not, that is entirely up to you, right? But personally, I would say it's worth a go. And the most unfortunate thing is that the narrative, it's not just psychological, it genuinely doesn't have much kick behind it. It wants to do something, it definitely wants to do something, but it feels a bit confused, it comes a bit out of nowhere, and yeah, it feels a bit all over the place. So the ending, unfortunately, doesn't hit all that hard. There's a point midway where the narrative changes pretty drastically, and there's some good points to it. There are some strong moments, but overall you're not playing this game for the narrative. But on the overall, I don't think Routine has too many pain points. I don't think it sticks around long enough for any cracks to become glaring issues. Instead, choosing to focus on fascinating its audience with a strong concept visuals and gameplay. Even at only 7 hours, it shows a really firm vision from a small studio who had a really creative idea, and even after 10 years they still managed to get it out the door and successfully. They've worked on this project for a long time and I think it's paid off, and I don't think it's hard to call Routine so imaginative. Okay, that's it for the video. Going off script for this bit. Thanks for watching if you got this far. I'm having a bit of a quarter-life crisis in terms of the videos I'm making, but Routine was a really cool thing, and I think I've always wanted to show off games that do interesting stuff, so maybe more of this review-style stuff in the future, just for very select games that I think do something interesting. So yeah, I've got some cool ideas coming up in the future, so hopefully I'll see you there. I'll see you in the next one.